Chapter 21. Thoughts, Feelings, and Emotions. Mechanisms underlying thoughts, feelings, and emotions create mental states that have profound impact in shaping our lives. They are all interconnected with perceptions, moods, and desires and can influence one another in complex ways. Even though understanding and managing them can significantly improve the quality of our lives, science is nowhere close to understanding how their underlying mechanisms work. This chapter not only gives a detailed explanation of how such mechanisms work, but how they are interconnected with each other. Putting it differently, it not only reveals how perceptions are formed, but how feelings emerge from perceptions, how thoughts emerge from feelings, how emotions emerge from thoughts and feelings, how desires are formed, and how all of them contribute to the mood of a person. Mental perceptions. According to the model, mental perceptions are formed in the same way we form sensory perceptions explained in the previous chapter. Following is the first ever explanation of how mental perceptions are processed by the brain. Mental perceptions are processed in the same way as sensory perceptions explained in the sensory perception flowchart earlier, where the sensory information of ongoing interactions is replaced by higher-level mental experiences and states that produce them. For example, if a person helps you in achieving a difficult goal, an attribute summarizing that he is a helpful person is stored in your System 1. When you meet him again, your System 1, that is, your non-conscious self, recalls and processes it, the result of which is sent to your System 2, that is, your conscious self, which makes you perceive him as a helpful person. The perception that he is a helpful person is received by your System 2, that is, yourself, not in the form of a thought, but in the form of a feeling. As feelings play a central role in our daily lives, we are influenced by them all the time, yet we do not know much about them. Even science does not explain the nature of feelings and how they emerge. Following is the first ever explanation of what feelings are and how they work. Feelings. Our brain uses various types of communication to process information and regulate bodily functions. Communication that happens in the interaction processing system, that is, in our mind, within and between System 1 and System 2 to process our interactions is what I call intramural communication. Feelings are the end product of such intramural communication. If further processing of a feeling generated by a situation is required, for example, in the process of making a choice, we convert it into what we call thoughts using language. Such decision-making requires deliberation, in which one or more chains of decisions progress in a sequential manner, where each decision is based on the previous one in the chain of thoughts. Such conversion helps tie up the content of an interaction, whether physical or mental, to its counterpart in language. For example, while choosing between wearing a red dress or a black dress, you do not have to convert your choice into language, that is, by saying to yourself, "I'll wear black." You simply pick up the dress with your chosen color based on your feeling. However, in the case of choosing which cell phone to buy, you may need to convert the interaction of buying the cell phone into language for deliberation. For example, it's better to have a larger display for the price compared to a larger memory, as I'm only going to use it to make calls and check emails. In a nutshell, language helps tie up content of feelings generated by physical or mental interactions with their lingual counterparts, so they can be recalled at will for the process of deliberation. Besides 1, storing information of a feeling to the memory and retrieving it when needed, and 2, processing it using cause and effect chains of thoughts for deliberating between multiple options, engaging in deep thoughts, etc., converting into language also helps us, in 3, communicating it with others. How do we use feelings? Feelings that we use in our daily lives are subjective experiences resulting out of intramural communication sent by System 1, whose attributes are simple enough to become evident to System 2, that is, the self, before they reach the stage where we convert them into thoughts. Putting it differently, feelings that we use in our daily interactions are based on information sent by System 1, whose attributes are gained by System 2, that is, the self, without the need of them to get converted into thoughts. An analogy to understand the same is, in the way you can detect whether a flashlight pointing at your closed eyes is on or off without the need to open them, your System 2 can detect the attribute of a feeling sent by System 1 without the need to convert it into a thought. Based on the same, feelings that we use in our daily lives are attributes that are received before the stage where we convert them into thoughts and thus, do not reach System 2, that is, the self, in the form of thoughts. The reason we use feelings is that we make thousands of decisions every day that do not require converting them into language, for example, walking without thinking about each step, or dodging obstacles while walking. Sometimes we call them thoughts, even when they are based on feelings, for example, I thought it would be okay. They act as quick fix guides, although not very precise or accurate, for interactions that are 1, not evaluated as significant by System 2, that is, the self, or are 2, repetitive, based on past experiences, habituation or hardwiring, and thus, do not require deliberation or active decision-making respectively. As a majority part of the thousands of decisions we make every day either are not evaluated as significant or are repetitive, such use helps in drastically saving time and energy of converting them into thoughts. We also use feelings as quick fix guides for interactions that are highly significant and time critical. For example, when a part of your body comes into contact with fire, you immediately pull it back without wasting time thinking about it, as even a little hesitation could prove fatal. There are 2 types of feelings: sensory feelings and mental feelings. Sensory feelings are results of physical sensations and perceptions being processed in the sensory system, like the feeling of something being hot, loud, or slippery. Mental feelings are results of mental perceptions being processed in the brain, like the feeling of being safe, happy, or angry. As animals do not have highly evolved language like humans, sensory and mental feelings are used by them as the core means to process their interactions. Putting it differently, a major part of attention, judgments, decisions, behavior, actions, etc. of animals are driven by their feelings. Without language, the inability to convert feelings into language for the purpose of deliberation is the core reason why intelligence of animals, even those that share a high percentage of their DNA with humans, is nowhere close to human intelligence. That makes language the core factor behind the intelligence of mankind. As sensory feelings are a result of processing sensations and perceptions resulting out of physical interactions, one can deal with them by modifying how one interacts physically. But as mental feelings are a result of mental perceptions being processed in the brain and as feelings are not in the form of thoughts, one cannot deal with them using language, in the way one controls his thoughts using language. For the same reason, it is not possible to avoid mental feelings we receive on an ongoing basis. If a person is having bad or unwanted mental feelings, he can either avoid them by working on their cause or ignore them. To obscure themselves from bad or unwanted mental feelings, some people become addicted to alcohol, the basis of which is revealed for the very first time in the following explanation. Alcohol addiction. Alcohol is classified as a depressant because it slows down function of the central nervous system, which delays sensory information in reaching a person's brain. As evident in the previous chapter, sensory information is at the core of mental life, which plays a highly significant role in reaching goals of the brain. Based on such significance, after consistently receiving it in the same manner since birth, when the consumption of alcohol delays sensory information in reaching the brain, System 1 aborts all its ongoing communication with System 2, that is, the self, so it can attend and evaluate such delay, as it is an unusual event of high significance for System 1, which it is not programmed for. As feelings are a part of such communication, that is, communication aborted by System 1, the same results in saving the person from having such bad or unwanted feelings. Mechanism of emotions. As our lives are constantly influenced by emotions, we deal with them all the time. Not knowing what they are and how they work makes it difficult for us to control our interactions, which shape our lives. Even science does not explain how the mechanism of emotions works. Reacting to an emotion without understanding its purpose is as unintelligent as the horse who starts running on being kicked. According to the DOS model, emotions are designed to help you optimize your interactions on an ongoing basis by the process of natural selection. Even though there is no such thing as negative or positive emotions, the reason many classify them as negative and positive is because they lack the understanding of what emotions are and what their purpose is. For example, many consider anger to be a negative emotion, but when used in the right situation at the right time, it is the only tool that can provide a desired outcome. It is, for example, the only appropriate tool one can use on a child who is adamant about not attending the school. If you use it in the wrong place, at the wrong time or in the wrong strength, it is your lack of understanding of how to use it that is to be blamed, not the emotion, which is just a tool. Once you understand the logic behind the mechanism of emotions, you will realize that the best way to optimize your life is when dealing with them in situations they are designed for by the process of natural selection. Following is the first ever fully causal explanation of what emotions are and how they work. We interact with the world using our thought processes, which are based on chains of cause and effect thinking in serial processing environment. In the serial processing environment, it becomes cumbersome to modify such cause and effect-based thought processes to suit the dynamically changing situations of our ongoing interactions. To optimize them in such dynamically changing situations, the process of natural selection has designed the mechanism of emotions, which is revealed in the following explanation. If, based on past experiences, habituation or hardwiring, any significant information related to the dynamically changing situation of your ongoing interaction either exists in your System 1 memory or becomes available to it, it uses its parallel processing capability to detect it and process it with such information in order to evaluate the situation, and comes up with an attribute, which is sent to your System 2 in the form of a feeling, prompting it to take action. The attribute selected by your System 1, which is non-conscious, based on such evaluation is what we call emotion, which is used by your System 2, that is, your conscious self, as a guide to modify your ongoing interaction in order to optimize it. As an example, imagine yourself, that is, your System 2, engrossed in watching a movie in a theater and there is a burning smell coming from somewhere. Your System 1 uses its parallel processing capability to detect it and comes up with the emotion of fear, as burning smell symbolizes danger and destruction that can be caused by fire, the attribute of which is sent to your System 2, which is received by it as a feeling, prompting it to take appropriate action. Without the detection of System 1, it was highly unlikely for your System 2, that is, yourself, which was engrossed in watching the movie, that is, engaged in the chain of cause and effect thoughts while watching the movie, to realize that there was something burning, as it is a serial processor which cannot multitask. This way, even when it cannot multitask, System 2 can reap the benefits of multitasking using the parallel processing capability of System 1. Different emotions use different attributes to optimize your interactions in different ways. For example, while encountering an unexpected or unusual situation, based on its significance to you, the attribute of emotion surprise guides your System 2 to reevaluate it. Or, while interacting in a situation that is good for you, the attribute of emotion happiness guides your System 2 to promote it. In the DOS model language, the reason you become happy in a situation that is good for you is that, based on your past experiences, your brain is programmed by the process of natural selection to promote it. However, how each emotion influences your thoughts and actions is not fixed, but is based on multiple factors like your understanding of various situations, your beliefs about them, your confidence levels, etc. For example, Depending on the person or situation, the emotion of fear may guide his system 2 to either identify its source, look for solutions, reach out for support, some of them or all of them. System 1 also 1 makes behavioral, physiological or other changes that are required to optimize the situation, and 2, if found socially beneficial by the optimizing aspect of natural selection, makes others aware, often habitually, of the attribute of emotion that is applied through expressions and gestures. Such attributes are the basis of expressions and gestures used in emoticons. If, in a particular situation, System 2, that is, yourself, finds it detrimental to make others aware of your emotion by making such expressions and gestures, it guides your System 1 to refrain from expressing them. However, System 1 can override such guidance 1, when the situation is intense, or 2, when System 2 is weak, which is when a person finds it difficult to hide his emotions due to lack of System 2 control, that is, self-control. As emotions use feelings as a vehicle to reach System 2, that is, the self, they are also not in the form of thoughts, but once they are created by System 1, they can be converted into thoughts using language. That reveals the crucial difference between feelings and emotions, which are often used interchangeably by many. As they are generated by the non-conscious System 1, science is unable to decode how emotions are generated, even when they play a central role in lives of each and every one of the 7.9 billion people living in the world today. Motorcycle analogy for emotions. To benefit from your emotions in an optimized manner, it is essential to first understand how the mechanism of emotions works, which is simplified in the following motorcycle analogy. In the way a motorcycle is propelled by its rear wheel, our interactions are propelled by thoughts running in our System 2. In the way rear wheel rotates in a fixed position and thus cannot steer the motorcycle into a different direction. Our System 2 cannot steer our interactions driven by the serial processing of cause and effect chains of our thoughts into a different direction. In the way front wheel of the motorcycle helps us steer it using the handlebar to stay on the dynamically changing directions of a road, our emotions help us steer our thoughts using parallel processing capability of System 1 to stay on the road, which is the path defined by the dynamically changing situations of our ongoing interactions. In a nutshell, emotion is the corrective motion we make to maintain our position in the center of the path of our dynamically changing situations. With emotions steering our lives this way, the more we manage to stay in the center of the road, the happier we are and vice versa, which is the first ever fully causal scientific explanation of what happiness is. It also confirms the widely popular quote, "Happiness is a journey, not a destination." In the DOS model language, happiness is a journey towards the center of our dynamically changing path, which represents our dynamically changing situations, and not a destination, which implies a fixed position. What are moods? Science finds it difficult to clearly explain what moods are because of their complexity, subjective nature and intricate interactions between psychological and environmental factors. All science knows is that moods are prolonged emotional states that influence how we feel, think and behave and can last for hours, days or weeks. Following is the first ever fully causal scientific explanation of what moods are and how they work. Continuing with the motorcycle analogy of emotions, moods are defined by two dimensions, your position on the path defined by the dynamically changing situations of your ongoing interactions and your strength to be in that position. Position and strength. With continuously changing situations of your ongoing interactions, your mood is based on your evaluation of your current distance resulting out of such interactions from the center of the path. The closer it is to the center of the path, the happier your mood is. The farther it is from the center of the path, the sadder your mood is. The strength of your mood is based on your strength to be in such position. The same translates to the higher the strength of your happy mood, the higher strength it needs for it to change into sad mood and vice versa. What are desires? Like emotions and moods, desires are also complex, subjective, and context-based. Without the understanding of mechanism that drive them, it is difficult for science to explain what they are. Following explanation reveals what they are and how they work based on what I call formula of desire revealed by the model. According to the model, the mechanism of desire makes sure our physical and mental needs are fulfilled based on their significance to us. For example, electricity is important for our daily lives, but as it is always available, we do not pay much attention to it. However, in the event of a power outage, we quickly realize our dependence on it and strongly desire for its immediate restoration. Following is the first ever explanation of the mechanism of desire. Desire of something can be derived by comparing its relation to the availability and the importance of that thing. Let's take desire as the force of effort to be made, availability as a real-world variable, and importance as the effort required based on its significance. Based on the same, following is the formula of desire. High importance, with low availability, results into high desire. For example, if the importance of something is high, but its availability is low, the desire for it becomes high. Which translates to, as money is important for living a luxurious life, and as I don't have it, its availability to me is low, and therefore, my desire for it is high. The model reveals various other formulas to make it easy for you to understand how desire, importance, and availability interact with each other to shape your subjective experiences and mental states, translations of which match your real-life situations, as follows. 1. High importance, with high availability, results into low desire. For example, if both the importance and the availability of something are high, the desire for it becomes low. Which translates to, even when the importance of water is high for my survival, its availability is high and thus, my desire for it is low. However, in a desert scenario, even when the importance of water remains the same for me, its availability becomes low and thus, my desire for it becomes high. This example demonstrates the mathematically extrapolative nature of such formulas. 2. High desire, with low availability, results into high importance. For example, if the desire of something is high, but its availability is low, its importance becomes high. Which translates to, as my desire to buy the limited edition pen is high, but its availability is low, the importance for me to buy it becomes high. 3. High availability, with low desire, results into low importance. For example, if the availability of something is high, but the desire for it is low, its importance becomes low. Which translates to, even when the availability of books is high in the library, my desire for reading books is low and thus, it is not important for me to go there. Although we typically treat it as a real-world variable, if you manipulate the availability of something, which, in the forthcoming example, is by repeating it or forcing it on someone, the desire formula can result in opposite consequences, that is, into negative desire, as follows. 4. Low importance, with high availability, results into low desire. For example, if the importance of something is low, but its availability is high, the desire for it becomes low. Which translates to, when a student does not see studying as important, but his availability to study becomes high due to the teacher's pressure, his desire to study becomes low. The more the availability, the less his desire. With enough pressure from the teacher, his desire to study can decline to such levels, that is, into negative desire, that he may not study in the future, even if he comes to recognize the importance of studying. Conversely, when a person gives you the freedom to do whatever you desire, you start liking that person, as he becomes important for you. As desires are generated in the form of mental feelings, and as explained earlier, we cannot control the generation of our mental feelings, we cannot control the generation of our desires, but we can either modify our thoughts and beliefs that generate them or control how to respond to them. Using desire as a tool. Wearing clothes has been an essential aspect of our lives, which serves multiple purposes. We wear them for protection, modesty, comfort, social status, and cultural expression. They shield us from weather, injuries, and harmful elements. Keep our bodies clean and protect us from germs and dirt. Help us regulate our body temperature and provide us comfort. Help us reflect our personality, culture, profession, and social status. And help us cover our body according to cultural and social norms. Although we wear them for such multiple reasons, they are all secondary reasons. The primary reason we wear clothes, which is the evolutionary reason connected to the process of natural selection, is not known, even to science. In spite of that, most people in the world diligently adhere to the practice of wearing clothes. In fact, we have taken the practice of wearing clothes so seriously that we have the word nudity for being without clothes, but not a single word for the state of being clothed. Following is the first ever explanation that reveals the core reason why we wear clothes. As mentioned in the beginning of this course, survival and reproduction are the core goals of the process of natural selection. Both are equally important for the evolutionary process. Until now, you have learned how the evolutionary process takes care of the goal of survival in many different ways, but not the goal of reproduction. The model reveals how the process of natural selection uses desire as a tool to aid the evolutionary goal of reproduction. Based on the formula, desire is equal to importance divided by availability. When the availability of something important is low, the desire for it becomes high. According to the model, the core reason why we wear clothes is to cover parts of our body that are considered private, which is important for the goal of reproduction. By making the practice of hiding of our private parts a sociocultural norm, which exists in most of the human population, the availability of them becomes low and thus, the desire for them becomes high. Such desire is used by the process of natural selection in multiple ways to promote and boost the goal of reproduction. Besides revealing detailed explanations of mechanisms underlying various emotions, my forthcoming work will reveal mechanisms underlying beauty, humor, music, art, taste, etc., which play a major role in influencing them, but are unknown to science. For example, it will reveal the mechanism behind why we like music, which is not only unknown to science, but even to the musician who is responsible for making it.
To summarize, this chapter revealed mechanisms and processes underlying perceptions, feelings, thoughts, emotions, moods, and desires, and how they are interconnected with each other.